I can't have anything nice. Hi, everyone. Hope everybody had a lovely holiday season and are going to have a good new year, because this video is going to be out before the new year. But today, sometimes, it's just better to fix than replace. Pardon my eye again. Apparently, I'm still not over whatever I have, because if you saw last video, I got diagnosed with mono, and I don't even know when that clears up. They said a few weeks, but I guess that's messing with my eyes, making one swell up and stuff. Sorry about that. But anyway, thank you all again for watching. I greatly appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. I tend to do a lot of DIY stuff on this channel, mostly racing related. A lot of automotive stuff. If you saw my last video and you're new from that one. Since it's the holidays, it's a very busy time of year if you have family and people around you. If you don't, I apologize. It's very busy. Like, I only have 2 days to make this video, and usually I spend a week making them. And we're going to have to find something to do really quick, because I don't want to leave you guys in the lurch. I really don't like going a week without sending you guys something or having a video for you, because I don't like dropping out of the algorithm. I really want to build this channel up as much as humanly possible, but I don't want to leave you guys in the lurch. If you've spent the time and the energy to not only watch my videos, but to subscribe as well, I want to give you something. So I got a lot of stuff laid out here from the last time I was in here. I didn't clean up, and I got some parts in which we can really go about putting together and doing more work on this car, at least the race car, because it's the holidays. I get home late. It's too dark for me to work outside. There's oil dripping out of my truck as I speak. I don't know from where. I could figure that out, but we're gonna have to get to work in here somehow. And there's plenty to do on this car. And if you've not seen through my back catalog, go take a look. There's a whole bunch of racing content, mostly fabrication and homebrew stuff. But let's figure out something to do. First off, I got a new tripod, thanks to my brother. That poor old thing in the corner there with the duct tape on it. She's been doing me well, but, I kind of needed something nicer. Other than that, I really need the walkway, so I got to clean up my welding stuff. But I got this from eBay, which I can't get with one hand, so I'll bring it over to the workbench. Now, a couple videos ago, you guys will remember I was putting stuff on the front of the motor of the race car. And this water pump, which actually, for the looks of it, I know it's all rusty looking, but the only reason it is because I didn't paint it. Some of the rules around here require you to run a cast, or not cast, but at least a steel water pump. So I got this one. And remember, I looked at the backside at the cover, right? And I pulled this cover off, and I saw really heavy pitting in the back, and I have had water pumps fail and start leaking out of the back cover before. And I did not want that to happen, so I put a new water pump on, because I kind of needed a spare anyway, so whatever. But I said, I really wish they just made these covers so that I could just keep this water pump, because it's still good. I think this is like a Stewart Stage 2 pump, so it pumps a little bit more. Also, a family member who is very adept at water told me, hey, you should be using distilled water in your car if you have to use water, because of the pH levels and stuff like that. It won't allow you to really have the problems that you're having. And I said, that's actually really smart, because I used to use distilled water. However, I would call it laziness, because I have a Dollar General, which, if you live anywhere, they just kind of sprout out of nowhere. But I have one within walking distance of my house, and I used to just get distilled water, like 3-4 gallons of it. But since COVID, that stuff, I don't know why, but it's really hard to come by. I should just try harder to find it instead of just using it out of the hose, because then I wouldn't have these problems. Now, I figured out that I could go on eBay and buy the covers. And they come with the gasket that's really thick, So we're going to take and we're going to clean this off, get this cover off, throw it away. Going to put a nice, fresh, brand new cover on, and we'll have a nice, ready to go, spare water pump. I forgot to mention that the cover on eBay is like 35 bucks. And if you get a nice racing water pump like that, you're talking the range of 100 to 150 bucks depending on what you buy. So I think $35 for a cover, if you screw up and use tap water like me, is a far better option than spending another $100-something on a pump that actually works. If the pump is fine, it works. It's just I needed the cover. So let me get a 1/2-inch socket, I think, and we're gonna need a bunch of stuff to scrape that gasket off too. Now that that's fixed, and I just need to find a pipe plug for that so that if I need to use it, at least I can just throw it on instead of having to pull pipe plugs and stuff. I'll just go to Home Depot and, I don't know, buy a handful of them. I could always use them about that size. I have another issue. And this time, it's not with parts. It's actually with tools. See, what I have is, I have all the tools necessary for me to set my own car up at home, which is very useful. I've got scales, I've got roll-off blocks, which I made myself using a laser level on my, well, frankly disgusting floor. And they work pretty well. I mean, I go over the track scales, and the car is pretty much dead nuts with what their scales say, so can't be too far off. But I also have camber caster turning plates, which, if you know anything about racing, those things are expensive. And I've got issues with mine. I've noticed in the past few weeks cleaning up that I'm finding ball bearings on the floor. And I've been keeping them in just kind of a random place because I don't want to lose them, and I know exactly where they came from. Considering I have the world's most expensive workbench, I just put them on the car because it's the only clear place I have. These are a very ancient set of old turning plates. Now, like I said, tools are everything in racing. If you don't have the right tools, you're going to be behind somebody who does. It's really funny now that I think about it, because I'm like doing the math and figuring out how long it took my family's race team to even have scales. And I did the math and I was like, that was like 12 years. So in essence, what we would do to get our car ready was pack wheel bearings and don't touch anything on the car and check the brakes. And then shove it back on the trailer from the week before and go race again. And any changes we needed to make were done by the seat of our pants. And if we needed scales, we would just go and use the track scales to see what the numbers said. And that was about it. So you could tell that we really couldn't make a heck of a lot of changes or experimentations. And we always, were a little bit behind. But I didn't want that to happen when I went racing. So tools became a priority, and after my dad died, I kind of inherited these old turning plates. You know what? Let me bring you in for a closer view here. These things are Wheel-O-Matic Company of America, West Franklin, New Hampshire. And you can tell that they're very accurate. But it's not really meant to be the most accurate thing in the world. What it is you got to get to at least 20 degrees of wheel turn for you to figure out caster and stuff like that. So that's really the only reason we have these, is checking caster and stuff. Also, setting toe, it really helps if you're already on the scale plates or scale blocks. it really helps with doing that sort of thing. But tools are really important as well. As I reach over here to grab some, like I've got these. Why do you have two of them? Well, because I had this one, which is a camber caster gauge, which is really, really nice. And it measures a lot. It measures up to 12 degrees of caster positive, negative 4.5, and positive or negative camber up to 9 degrees. Which I used this for a long time, right? And like I said, having the right tools is very important, which is why I switched to this lovely unit, because I wanted to be more precise in my note taking. This is a digital one. It'll measure whatever I want, no limits. So, plus it'll measure it in decimals so that I can get a more accurate measurement of what my setup is. Accuracy is very important. But so is the maintenance of your stuff that you're trying to use. Clearly, like I said, these are kind of old. I don't really know which one's missing anything, but we're going to figure it out together. All right, this one is missing 3. Let's see how many this is missing. Huh. This one is also missing, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so I think what we'll do is we'll grab a rag, we'll clean these off, we'll put one in there, there, and then in this one we'll put one in there, so that now both of them are missing. Let's see, let's space them out. 2. That's not so bad. I think it'll still work, right? All right, let's throw this thing back together and make sure they work. All right, and by the magic of forgetting to turn the camera on, they're done. So what's really funny is I actually took this one apart right here. And I looked underneath at the slider mechanism, and I found 2 more ball bearings. So I managed to get this one completely fixed. This one's still missing 2. I should have did 1 and 1, but whatever, who cares? This one's complete, this one's not. But it's got enough in there that it really doesn't matter. It's so well distributed that it can handle any load that it goes on there. I've never had a problem. So instead of me buying something new again, I managed to somehow fix it just by collecting the parts that fell out of it and then, making sure it was tight again. So, like I said, if you're into racing and you know how much these things cost, brand new, it's way more than you think. And if I can keep these old things going and still moving smooth, that's great, because I don't want to have to spend any unnecessary money on things. Now, apparently when my dad fixed these, or at least went through them once, he used Never Seas as the lubricant. And I'm shocked I don't look like the Tin Man right now, because I've been wiping my car off nonstop. And I want these off of here because the car needs to get painted and stuff anyway. But it's still pretty gross. So I'm going to put these back to where they belong, and we'll have to find something else. By the way, I left a water in here on accident, and the only reason there's any liquid in it right now is because it's right in the line of fire for the heater. It was completely iced solid. It actually spit the straw out the top. That's how cold my shop is. That's great. So a thought occurs to me. I've noticed that I do have a bunch of new subscribers, which thank you all again. I greatly appreciate it. I appreciate you guys taking the time out to watch the stuff that I do. But to those of you who are brand new, who don't know the car, this is my street stock, quote unquote. It's going to be run at Stafford Motor Speedway in Connecticut. I've raced at Thompson for a long time, Stafford, and at Waterford, the very least. Nothing against Waterford. I'm just kind of, I'm not a big fan of the style of racing that they do there. It's exciting to watch, don't get me wrong. I love the place, but I like bigger tracks. Let's just put it that way. So this is essentially what street stocks in the Connecticut region used to be, which is why I want to go to Stafford. They kept the rules very similar. They are a typical metric chassis car. I have a full frame car outside. That's my old car. Maybe I'll put a video link up here to when I got rid of it. This is something that a lot of places across the country don't have, and it is a full tube chassis car. Like I said, full tube. The car is not a speck of factory anything in the chassis. Like I said, a lot of places don't allow for these full Johnson style chassis cars to be run because I get it. It's not exactly the same weight, not exactly the same geometry, but up here in the Northeast, we've made that work. Like at Stafford, the winningest car this season was a full frame car. Last year, the exact copy to this specific chassis, the car that I have now, won the championship. Like I said, we have a very good mix of rules so that you could run the factory chassis or you could run the factory replacement chassis like what this is. The only reason I went with this is, well, I live in the Northeast where it is winter exists and salt exists, and these cars get very, very hard to find, especially now since it's about, I want to say, 30 plus years since they went out of production. So it's just a lot easier for me to get these parts, especially when I'm looking at it, and I know Speedway Motors actually reproduces the factory chassis rails now, which is kind of neat. I was thinking about actually getting one of those chassis and putting it together in the shop, taking my old car, cutting in the whole cage free and dropping it on that chassis. That would be a lot of fun to do that. I just love working with my hands, and I was always thinking about doing that, but that chassis is in sections, so I would need a lot of welding wire and gas. But I'll continue. The way I built this car, it is literally like a late model masquerading as a street stock. I have floor-mounted pedals. I've got the gauges under the dash. I've got a smooth dashboard. I've got a collapsible steering column. It is very, very minimalistic in here. It's very dirty as well because I didn't dust it. Like I said, it is masquerading as a late model. I've got cage-mounted switches. It's very, very clean inside. I figured those of you who are brand new to the channel would like at least a little bit of a refresher as to what this car is. And obviously we'll be putting up little reminders up in the corner of different videos to get you reacquainted if you're brand new to the channel. Also, the rules are very specific in this division. You have to run a very specific set of shocks, springs. They have a tire rule, clearly. You have to run the track stuff. We're very limited on a lot of stuff. We are also limited to the fact that we have to run factory shocks up front, which means we have to run adjuster cups, but we can run jacking bolts in the rear. We can't touch the suspension though. We have to have a 4-link that's factory with front, upper, and lower A-frames that are factory. Everything has to be factory. We also, the kicker is, we have to run an open differential. Connecticut is very unique in that they've used to have, I say used to because 2 of the tracks have gotten rid of the rules since then, but they used to have open differentials in their street stocks, meaning if I rolled this tire this way, the other one's going the other way because there's still spider gears in the rear end. It makes the racing a lot different, and I'll tell you that for sure, because it's a lot easier to wheel hop, it's a lot easier to make mistakes, and it's a lot more difficult to drive, but they put on a much more interesting show. So hopefully you'll be able to see that on this channel next year, because we are going full time with this next year at Stafford, come hell or high water. And if you subscribe to Flow Racing, if that, that's a streaming service you can watch a lot of different racing and stuff on. Stafford was one of the pioneering racetracks for Flow Racing. They're still on there. It's going to be a good time. You guys can catch up with me there. So there's a quick overview. To those of you who are new, I wanted to just kind of buzz through that real quick just to get you guys acquainted with what I got going on here. That way, if you have any questions, hopefully I answered a lot of them. If not, you can always comment. I will always answer those. However, at this point in the off season, we still have at least, 4 months between now and when we're going green, because it's the end of December. So I'm technically going to consider it the beginning of January, because New Year's is right when this video is going to come out. So we got like 4 months to put this car on the racetrack. Now, clearly, I think it's pretty ready. I got to drop a distributor in it. I got to put an oil filter and oil in it. And I got to check all the fluids, put water in it, stuff like that. The safety equipment is up to date. The body's on it. I think the wheel bearings are still good. I mean, I just did those. So finding things to do at this point is really kind of difficult. And you're going to run into this sort of thing when you own your own race car as well. And I hope you do. Because a lot of times guys get kind of in their own head and say, it's cold out. I don't have to work on the car until it's time to go anyway. It doesn't need a heck of a lot. How long does it take to put a body on and do all this stuff? Well, look, I can't begin to tell you, and I've been racing and involved in racing for 25 years now. And I can't even begin to tell you how many times we've looked at the calendar and said, oh no, we have to get ready. And we basically are duct taping numbers on the car right before going on the racetrack for the first race of the year because we procrastinated and didn't get it done when we should have. So that's why I'm in the shop and doing it now. Hopefully, fingers crossed, that rubs off on some people so that when they show up for their race, if they start racing, or if they have been for a long time, they won't be delayed. Because that's the worst thing you could do, is try to rush something with a race car, especially when you are the one that's on the line. You're the one sticking your butt in the seat. You're the one putting yourself in danger. You don't want to screw around and make it so that you've procrastinated to the point where you are going to make a mistake. That's why we're working on the car now. Last time we left off on the car, we were, a little bit worse off than we are right now. I'm still getting over being sick. But you remember we took an old brake master cylinder and absolutely boogered that on because I did very poor prep work and put thinner material on thicker material. But we got it. We got it working. But you'll notice that there's a lot left to do. And when you're working on your car, you got to nut and bolt things. You want to make sure you put a wrench to stuff. Hey, look at that. Huh, found that down there. Like, this linkage isn't even hooked up yet. The distributor's not in. The fan's not even hooked up. When you see stuff like this, don't worry about, I'll do it later. It's not a big deal. If you see something that's not on, just do it, even if it doesn't really need to be done, because you don't want to forget about it later. So I'm going to be going and plugging that fan in, hooking that linkage up, just doing little piddly work, because if you leave it to chance, you're always going to get bit by it in the end. Now, if there's a pet peeve that I have with other racers, it's the fact that they're just not prepared enough. And I know that sounds like judgmental coming from me, but think about it this way. If it was me, I'd be yelling at myself too. I've showed you guys that you can roll your fenders and make sure that there's no sharp edges and stuff, but you know how many times I've seen a guy get into a little bit of a fracas with the front end or whatever. The fender gets ripped off or something dumb happens because they don't put enough fasteners in it or they don't fasten their stuff to their bumper. And then they're out of the race because the officials say, well, you can't have flapping sheet metal like that. I build my cars in a manner with which I can take them through literal warfare, come out the other side, you know, a little beat up and stuff, but still in one piece. Why is that? Well, because I bolt everything to the car. I'm looking for the correct size. I think this is it. So, what I do with the bodies on my car is very simple. Like I said, I bolt them to the bumpers or the body mounts or braces or whatever the case is. So, I'm going to try to find exactly where this goes, which looks like it's right about there. I got a 5/16 drill bit. And we're going to make it so that it won't fall off. Simple. Watch where you put your hands. Oh, all right, there she is. Oh yeah, right in the middle. By the way, these are Harbor Freight Hercules black oxide drill bits. They're some of the best drill bits I've ever had in my life. I'm not kidding. I bought a second pair because I found them on clearance. Or second box, I should say. They're really good. And I know they're hit or miss when it comes to Harbor Freight. That's why I'm using, you know, this kind of a drill. But the bits, if I find a good deal, I'm going to pass it on to you guys because it's just worth it. And for the price, I'm not complaining. It just eats it alive. So what I use is I use a carriage bolt. See, it's got the rounded head. And I use a washer that's big enough to go over the little square part on the back of the carriage bolt. And then I use a nut with a lock washer instead of just like a nylock nut. That way it's just a little easier for me to burn it on. Take that, pass it all the way through the bumper. It's hard to grab these things with gloves on. These are only 5/16. Tighten her down with a gun. Let's put that on kill. And voila. It's smooth all the way across. There's no sharp edges. So if you're running into people, it's not going to hurt anything. And if you get into real trouble, like I've gotten into serious trouble, I've gone up and over the side of somebody's car twice. And because of that, the only thing that happened was the fender was a little dented in. Do it. Trust me. Don't regret it. I'm going to go replicate that on the other side of the car just to get it done. And I think that's probably going to be it for me tonight. I got to go put something in my eye because it's irritating. So hopefully that'll clear up a little bit by tomorrow. Fingers crossed. I'm sick of having problems with my eyes lately, let's be fair. And hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. See, look at that. Works like a charm. I don't have any clue what that is. Ugh. It's the next day. Wow, my face is awfully red. Wonder why that is. Anyway, I got a couple more things to do, and some of them are body related, some of them are mechanically related. And again, I apologize for the seemingly rushed nature of this video, but again, it's the holidays. I haven't been able to get out here. I only had 2 days to kind of throw this together. This is the last day I'm able to do something, but I've got a couple things that I want to do, and we're going to try to get those done before the end of the day. And hopefully, fingers crossed, they actually work out. First thing is, I noticed that this axle has a little bit of end play. Like I can take the wheel and kind of move it in and out a little bit. Normally that's not a bad thing, but I'm a little concerned. Because I can come over here to this wheel, kind of grab hold of her. Yeah, she doesn't really move, but it rolls really easily. And since these are bolt-in axles, because this is a Ford 9-inch with bolt-in, axles, kind of like a hot rod or old truck or Bronco or whatever, I don't like having end play. There should be a little tiny bit of preload on those bearings because they're brand new. And the right rear takes a whole lot more, let's just say, loading than the other side. This is a lot more impact loading. That's a lot more drag loading. So I don't want to ruin the bearing because there's a little bit of play. It could wear funny. It's a conical bearing. So I'm going to rip the wheel off, rip the brake rotor off, rip the everything off, get in there to the shims. Like, I put washers for shims. I'll show you all this when I get to it. And we want to investigate, maybe pull a shim out, see if that fixes it. We'll figure it out. I screwed up. I should have showed you guys the bolt-in axle setup before I put it back together. But I did pull one washer out of all 4 of the bolt holes, or the bolts that hold the axle in. And now it's not clunking back and forth. And I took my time on that one. I was just kind of very slowly and methodically just kind of tightening it down until it basically stopped moving in and out. And then it was like a half turn and it was tight. I'm like, well, I'm just going to leave that because, like I said, I think I might want a little bit of preload. And I go like this, and I think the pads are kind of chattering. That's okay. They're not meant to go backwards. They're meant to go forwards. Anyway, I mean, it rolls pretty clean, so I'm not going to say that it's held up at all, but I like that a little bit more. Hopefully it's okay. No idea until we get it out on the racetrack. I will definitely be bringing the spare with me just in case. But now I think we're going to get on to the back because there's still body work to be done. I have my old spoiler still. Yeah, it's a little crusty and old, but it's functional. I'm thinking I might go grab that out of the snow and the rain and garbage off the old back tailpiece that's out in the yard still. Oh, snow's gone. Well, kind of. This poor thing falls over every 5 minutes. I think I'll just rip that one off because I'm looking at it. It might have the same curvature. Maybe it'll fit. I don't know. We'll see what happens. So I got the old one off. Yeah, she's a little ugly. That's okay. It's part of my old car. It's still functional. It's really wet, which is kind of gross. I'll grab a towel, clean that off. The main thing, though, is you put it up to here. It fits exactly the same as the old one, which is perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for. I don't have to spend money on it. It's exactly what I need. It's the right height because they don't allow you to have a 5-inch spoiler, which is pretty standard. It's got to be like 4 inches. So you got to buy a 5-inch spoiler, hack the top off of it, and you end up with them looking like this, where it's wavy and not perfect. That one's not so bad. This one, however, you look down it and, oh, it is not good. So what I'm going to do is, when I'm putting it on, probably take my little buzzer wheel here, which is so unbelievably handy. If you got to air one of these, yeah, it's fine. And they work, but your air compressor is going to go off every 5 seconds. So I just bit the bullet, bought a Milwaukee one. You can adjust the speed on it. You can do whatever you want. And it's a torquey little machine. I like it. It's quiet. Does the job perfectly. I'm going to take it. I'm going to clean up these kind of wavy little edges here. And we're going to get to putting this thing on. And that's going to be cool because any old piece of my old car that I can put on this one, I kind of like because it just becomes a rolling tribute. And I'm not saying that car is dead yet. But for now, it kind of dormant. So let's get to work. Made a mistake. I turned off my heat and now it got cold pretty much. Ow! Ow again. Yep, ouch indeed. Oh, there it goes. By the way, if you have one of these radiant air heaters that makes a lot of noise when you fire it right up, it's got little air holes on the gas delivery. And if you got one of them little cheap clicky grill igniters on it, cover one of those holes while you hold the gas valve open and it'll be easier to light and very easy to burn yourself on. So anyway, I got you over here because we're putting on these pretty unnecessary for a street stock braces, but I always find them to be kind of helpful when it comes to trying to like adjust it if I want to, but it holds it in place really strong, so that's kind of helpful. You know, you don't want it moving around. But I didn't do these outside ones, as you can see. That's because I got this. Now, this is something I don't normally do. It is a rear tail light. I'm sorry. It's a rear tail light sticker set. Now, I know I got a Camaro rear cover on this, and this is a Monte Carlo, but these are the Monte Carlo rear stickers. I was thinking about putting them on just because I don't know if they're going to work or do anything, but hey, you know what? Racing's supposed to be fun. Let's have some fun. That looks sufficiently cheesy and awful, but you know what? Like I said, racing's supposed to be fun, so who cares? I tried to redo this one here and ended up ripping it in half. So I just tried to line it up as best as possible. What am I going to do, you know? So if I don't like the looks of it, at least I can rip it off because, like I said, it looks stupid. But like I said, it's supposed to just be kind of a cover-up for me running this kind of a bumper cover instead of the stock one, even though it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to finish up by attaching these now that the sticker's on, and it'll make me peeling it off 10 times difficult, but that's okay. We already knew what we were in for to begin with the cheesiness. So whatever. If the kids like it, that's all that matters to me. So what we haven't done yet are the front fender lower flares that I like to do. I don't like to cut my fenders flush. It leaves it really kind of flimsy, especially in side impacts. And it also leaves a sharp edge, which I don't like. I believe in karma, and I believe in what goes around comes around. And if I try to take care of my competitors, maybe, doubtfully, it'll come back to me. It usually doesn't, but, you know, a man can try. And at least if I do the right thing in life, at least I know that I did. And if it doesn't repay me, I still have the satisfaction of knowing that I did what was right. So anyway, you have to trim the bottom edge off so that the duckbill pliers will fit. Maybe I'll remember and put up in the corner there the video of us doing the backs, at least when we were doing the body. But we got to trim this off. Not perfect, but it doesn't have to be perfect. All right, now that we got the bar clamped into place on the back side, we can take our duckbill pliers and just kind of gently, but firmly, but gently roll it over. Look at that. That ain't so bad, is it? Finish with the body hammer. Right in the shin. That felt good. No, it's okay. There we go. Yeah, that'll fit once I get her straightened out with that strip that we're going to put on as well. But check that out. That is a little aggressive, but that's our flared edge. It's also, see how much more rigid the fender is now? It's braced here. It's here. It's got a nice edge. It's all one unit. Makes your car a lot more solid. You want a rigid car on the body. Less chance of you ripping stuff off, falling out of races. I got to go repeat the process on the other side. And aside from rolling fenders, the body will be pretty much done except for like a couple minor details. I got to stop saying the body's done because it's not even close to done. I haven't done a rocker here yet. I don't even know where that's going to go, if we're going to even do one. I haven't done the rub rail on the nose yet. I haven't rolled the fenders. Body's not done. I got to stop advertising like it's done. It's not done. It's mostly done. If I needed to race tomorrow, I could literally throw a number on the car with like black duct tape and see what happens. But for now, the majority's done. Did that one by eye because I literally have that much space in the front of the car for me to squeeze myself through, which isn't very easy. But you know what? Looks like the line lines up. I'm just going to go with it and hope for the best. Flares finally done. You know, it's slowly becoming, well, you know, a table. But it's also becoming a race car. Slowly, again. It used to be a race car. Then I crashed it. And, yeah, we're getting back there again. So, I'm excited. We're finally getting back to work after some holidays. Things are starting to get done. I'm excited about it. But what's not really exciting is the quality of these videos lately, and I do apologize for that, but extenuating circumstances kind of made it a little bit difficult. But I couldn't predict getting sick, especially with mono of all things. I had no idea I was going to catch that. Mostly because everybody in my house also tested negative for it, which is weird. Having the multitude of different issues, being in the hospital, and then it's immediately right after that, Christmas week. The last two videos I've had a grand total of like 4 days in, and that's not really enough for you guys, and that stinks, and I apologize for that, and it's kind of, it is what it is. I like to have themes to my videos, but like lately, man, it's just been tough. But hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be right back on schedule for the next one. But in order for me to get this one out, I have to kind of stop now, which stinks. But we did get a few things done. We've learned a few things. We tried a couple things. We fixed some stuff, and we didn't have to spend extra money. And that's always a good thing when you got a race car. If you can reuse something instead of buying new, more power to you, because it's so difficult out there to not spend money. If there's one thing that hurts racing, it's just blindly spending money. I had a good excuse to buy a new chassis, to be fair, but everything else is pretty much used that I put on this thing from my old car. So I'm trying to save money and trying to do better at the same time, and those things are usually not mutually exclusive, and it's been difficult. But thank you all for hanging in there with me, for watching, for hopefully enjoying what it's like to own a race car. And this is, like I said, I try to pride myself on this channel for being real. This is real. This is what it's like to work on one of these. This is what it's like to own one. This is what it's like to do things on your own, whether it be a race car, a diesel truck, regular old cars. This is what it's like. If you've always been curious about the hobby or just getting into cars in general, I'll tell you anything you want. I'll help you along the way. And hopefully, maybe someday I'll learn something from you guys, which I have. I have genuinely learned a thing or two from you guys, and I appreciate that as well. I appreciate all your subscriptions. Like I said, I'm not asking for no money from you. I'm trying to get Google to pay me some ad revenue, maybe buy a tire every once in a while. I do have super thanks on and all that stuff. If you feel like donating, that's completely up to you, and I appreciate it either way, but you don't have to if you don't want to. Just watching helps me a ton. I'm not going to sit here and talk your ear off all day. Thank you all so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. Normal content coming next week, hopefully. Have a wonderful new year, and until next time.